Beth has been complaining that my feet are smelly because when I go in the shower or in the bath, I need to have little ugly legs on so that my scars don't get wet, right? Yeah. So right now, I've got a little foot bucket to clean my feet. Are you happy?
What mug has to clean them?
Are you
this
happy?
One.
I did clean. Oh, look at your face right now.
No.
How many times have I cleaned yours?
Didn't get stinky as yours.
Believe me, yours were like blue cheese.
Get up now.
Here we go.
Yours smell like they're dead.
Ow. It's very hot. Did you put any cold water in there?
Yes.
No, that's really tickly.
I've got to do between, that's where the smell.
You're such a part-timer.
Problem is I'm more advanced than her at the moment, but then she overtakes me very quickly. Yeah. Well, she gets to go to a World Cup, so I know.
Finish on 3-2.
Look, it's devastating to deliver that kind of news to a player, but in the period leading up to a World Cup, I mean, yes, it's hard enough to say they're not going to play for the club. A World Cup comes every 4 years. It's difficult, and as a medical team, although you have a professional job to do, you do feel for the player because it feels so devastating to them.
A big thing within our rehab was missing out on the World Cup, which, again, for a non-athlete or non-footballer, like, you probably never really understand the feeling of being here while the World Cup is actually being played on the other side of the world. It's been tough, like, it's been really tough to see your teammates play.
It was always going to be a tough timeline for me to get back to a World Cup. Subconsciously, I'd always accepted that. I had such a sense of pride watching the girls and really wanted them to win, but also bittersweet in the sense that if they'd have won, I knew I'd have felt a little bit sad about it because I missed out on being able to do that with them.
I didn't mind watching the other games that much, but I did really mind watching us play, the Netherlands play, and that was the same for Beth, obviously, with England. And we've been very, almost like happy in that sense that we fully understood that and we knew how we felt. And yeah, we didn't have to carry that weight all by ourselves, which has been really nice, to be fair.
Okay, welcome everybody. Beth and Viv, as promised, we've got our first step today of getting some of the leading researchers and experts into ACL injuries.
I'm Anthony Hackney, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I'm a professor of exercise physiology and nutrition.
My name is Andreas Iversson from Sweden, professor in psychology.
I'm Kirsty Elliott-Sale. I'm a professor of female endocrinology and exercise physiology at the Institute of Sport at Man Met Uni.
My name's Al McCall. I'm head of research and development for Arsenal Football Club.
Kat Alcon-Krieger. I'm an associate professor in sports rehabilitation and medical research at FIFA.
Is there any questions or thoughts that you want to speak to them about?
I think for us, psychological, I think we think it was a big part of ours. I mean, for me, I had found out that my mum wasn't doing very well. I actually left an international camp early at that point, and then I think I left midweek, maybe like a Tuesday, Wednesday. We then played on the Saturday. I'd just been at home, so I'd had to deal with a lot. I obviously did mine in the 93rd minute, and it was contact, but you were kind of similar. You found out bad information about my mum the night before the game, so you were struggling psychologically. So we feel like that could have had a big impact on our injury.
If you look at the research done, I think the single risk factor from a psychological point of view is stress or history of stressors. Can you share a bit more? Perhaps you talked about mentally fatigued or so.
Yeah, I mean, I got 2 weeks off from the club in November. Then when I came back to the club, I actually felt really fresh. Like, I felt good. I enjoyed playing football again. So I was kind of on that role of like, okay, like 2 more games till Christmas because I have been feeling really good. Then obviously the day before we found out about Beth's mom. So like, I think that night was really emotional, especially because she had just gone through surgery and everything coming together. Like, I was really tired. But I did speak with Jonas and Leanne at that moment before the game. I obviously told them the news about Beth's mom. And I was like, I have not slept well. I am feeling tired, and maybe let's just see how I feel in the warm-up. And they were really supportive about that. They were like, just let us know what you need and what you want. In the warm-up, I felt great. Everything I touched went top bins, which never really happens. It was just like a decision and a step that I made off an emotional, emotional based. I would never make that decision really, but probably because I was tired and everything came together, I made that decision. The only moment that I got upset all the way up to actually having surgery was when I laid on the pitch. And I didn't think about my knee, I didn't really think about anything else. I just thought, oh God, I can't bring Beth home for Christmas. Because obviously like she went through quite a bit at that time. We wanted to be home for Beth.
Context-wise, my mum obviously was dying of cancer. So I knew we didn't have that long with her at that point. So obviously I couldn't drive. Just had operations, so obviously that was Vib's first sport instead of actually about a knee, which was...
That was my fault, and then obviously coming back after the game, like, I mean, me and Beth were sitting there, considering she was on crutches, just had surgery, and I was just sitting there, and all the girls came past, and everyone started crying for us, and we were just like, this has actually really happened.
We work so hard to monitor, to check your well-being, your mental health, but when there's so many variables, and again, you sort of both hinted at it, you were both happy to play, as I know, because we were involved in asking you. But that's a very subjective way of looking at it.
I would think when you are in difficult, challenging situations in life, what do you want to do? What you love, go play football.
It's your way of escaping things, I think, isn't it? It's like, for me, obviously, after losing my mum, all I wanted to do was kick a ball, which I've had taken away from me, obviously, at the moment, but it's what our job, it's what we love doing, and it's like,
I would speculate that, you know, all these risk factors or components that perhaps lead or contribute to your injuries, I don't think they're in set proportions. I think, you know, there are all of these predeterminants, and some days one is higher than the other, and then another day it moves again. It's when they come together in that moment, in the 93rd minute, it's that perfect storm.
There's not one or two factors, it's multifactorial.
You'd love to just plug us into a machine, wouldn't you, and just
But I love what she said about proportionality. It's multifactorial, and depending on you as an individual, one of those factors on a given day could be very much putting you at risk, but the next day it could be another factor in that facet that could be putting you at greater risk.
I've been involved in men's football a long, long time, and in the men's game we get the boys from the age of 9, and they do a lot of strength and conditioning, technique training and loading. Whereas in women's football, I'm finding that we often don't get you guys to year 18. You'll have limited access to S&C before that. And I believe that could be a component of why we're getting so many.
Gary, you're absolutely right. You know, there's a discrepancy between men and women and how they're catered for. You know, young boys learn to move like athletes, and young girls learn to move like good footballers, but not necessarily athletes. And there's a big change that needs to happen there to make sure that the future generations are on equal terms between the men and the women. Men have football boots that are designed for men. Women don't. Women play in men's football boots, or even worse, in children's football boots if they can't fit an adult size. The outsole, so the studs and the interaction with the surface, you know, you have different types, but that is for the needs of a man. And women are lighter, they have smaller feet, they play often on different surfaces, so men play on hybrids and women play on natural grass most of the time. And those pitches are probably not the best condition always either. So definitely we need that football boot to be designed for women and their needs to minimize the risk of injury.
We try our best to monitor and get a feeling in wellness of how the girls are, but it changes from moment to moment. How do you make decisions for the good of the team, but also individualise your decision-making to protect these guys as individuals? that's in elite sport, that's the hardest thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree, and I think the only way to come closer to it is to talk to people.
If I look at Arsenal right now, like our medical team has been there quite a while, so I feel like the girls that have been around longer are starting to feel really comfortable and actually saying how they feel. But it is really difficult because 9 out of 10 times, if I wouldn't be physically or mentally ready, I would actually pull myself out of things. But then that very last time that you're not doing it, that's when you get injured. Yeah, I do think it's a lot about communication and creating that open environment. But still, it's up to the player and the individual to actually say how they feel.
There's a big thing in like science, medicine world where they're saying, no, we shouldn't ask players this because they lie, they don't tell the truth. But like my experience, I'm pretty sure your experience is completely different. Once a player trusts you, they'll tell you, do anything for you, tell you anything. Us as practitioners have a big power to invoke either negative or positive emotions in you. And if we invoke the negative emotions, you then close and be defensive, and you're more inclined to not tell the truth.
Like, it probably would be helpful if we would get informed on periods, on like psychology, like on all these things, because then we've got the information from a reliable source. If you're really lucky and you're really good, you probably start playing professional football now when you're about 18, 19, 20 maybe. So even later than what we were.
Yeah.
But we're only going to get that baseline for girls the moment that all clubs start having youth academies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is like, you'd like to think that we're all developing and we are going to get there, but it's just not there yet. I think the biggest change within women's football right now is that instead of playing 25 games a season, we've gone to playing 50 games a season. How can we help prevent having that many ACL injuries?
There's no easy solution, unfortunately. Otherwise, I think we would be very rich if we had that solution. But it's taking all of those factors into consideration and trying to optimize them, and you have a really good support staff set up to sort of help you with that. And of course, you know, as we've talked about, you know, learning and like educating yourselves as well, so you can help in that process, I think are the best bits of advice I can give you.
We're in a time where we can actually do something really good quality and really meaningful. If we get everyone together and do it properly, we can do something pretty good. That's my hope.
Okay, well, not sure you can hear this because I'll probably need to shout. We have just been in London for the last 3 days. We both went to see the surgeon. Beth's first time after 6 weeks. What did he say?
I got 10 out of 10 from him.
And I didn't get a 10 out of 10, but he didn't really give me a number, so he said that I was still very good.
You're doing good.
And
You're early stages.
I'm doing good. Keep you up to date. How do I stop this again?
Yeah. Yeah, it's for my rehab documentary, so people can see how fun it is. Super fun. I've been playing with mannequins for far too long, so yeah, it's quite nice to have some teammates here to play with. Hopefully I'm not too rusty. All the girls will be shouting at me. It's been a long time coming, you know, 9 months nearly I am now, and I'm just obviously starting to get integrated a little bit more with the team. And yeah, it's been tough grind, both mentally and physically, to get to this point. So yeah, I'm really happy I've got here and can see that light at the end of the tunnel. Got too excited on the green red pole.
Everyone happy with that? So jog it out, it's no flat disc. Yeah. Switch it out, Vic. Switch it out, Vic. Good. We are got it. Good. Okay. Stand still. 1 second. Back. We're on the knee. Communication with it.
I swear I say I'm rusty.
Hey, man.
She got it mixed up. She went in between with a claw. Well done. I tried to Mr. Bethany! I felt like a scarecrow.
So Beth, you haven't actually met Amy yet. Amy does,
nice you okay?
Amy's actually experienced an ACL herself, and
We're in the club.
So, but she's done a lot of research over the years in prevention and rehabilitation.
Yeah. So I actually started out as a footballer as well. Grew up, maybe didn't realize quite that I wasn't as good as I thought I was.
We've all been there.
Wanted to find a way to stay close to football. Was also a science nerd at the same time, and had a little bit of coaching background. And so physio was the way to kind of tie all those together. Had a lot of athletes, especially younger academy athletes, who were having ACLs and sometimes even having second ACLs and developing all these questions about like, why is this happening? How do I prevent it? How do I prevent it from happening again? So I actually went back to school again and did a PhD in biomechanics and movement science on like exactly that. Is how do we prevent ACL injuries from happening in the first place? How do we make sure that athletes are really getting back to where they should be, really getting back to their pre-injury level of performance? And then how do we prevent them from happening again?
Plenty on the CV. Nice. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
This is where I got so annoyed at myself. So, like, obviously left leg, good leg.
Yeah.
Can drop through it, hardly use this, drop it low.
Yeah.
Right down, knee forward. Obviously, bad leg. Very much rely on the TRX.
Yeah.
Try and push forward. Can do okay, but lean back a bit.
Yeah.
And then obviously drop it out because I'm trying to push forward as much. It's just, again, the tightness. I'll get there.
Yeah.
But figuring it out is
If you were
thing.
to just drop down to where you feel that tightness, have you played around with moving forward and backwards in that tightness?
Not yet. So if I was to do, my biggest tightness starts to come here.
Yeah.
So if you were to say rock it in and out.
Yeah.
So I could probably do that as part of my dailies.
Pay attention to what's going on in the gym too.
Yeah.
Because if you're really focused in here, right,
you get in your own head with it.
Yeah. Right. So it might not be the prettiest rep if you're watching what somebody's doing elsewhere, but no two of your shots look the same. No two of your crosses look the same.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If you beat the same defender twice, it's never the same way.
Yeah.
So, do we need to do every single rep in the gym the exact same way? Probably not.
So we've covered loads of topics in the last couple of days and we've pulled everything apart. But the underlying question we keep coming back to, why there are so many ACL ruptures in women's sport compared to men's sport. Because the stats don't lie, the numbers, especially in professional women's football at the moment, the numbers are frightening. If we're having this conversation in 10 years' time, we've failed.
Yeah.
Because we need to do something about it. So why do we think, $1 million question, why do we think it's so prevalent in women's football?
It's like asking you the question, what made you Beth? What made you one of the premier women's footballers, right? There's so many factors that go into that. We don't necessarily have an answer, but there's probably so many components to it that it's hard to say, this is the one thing.
I think the two parts of it. So there's the nature, you know, we are, like, as women, different to men. And I think a lot is blamed on that. So a lot is blamed on the menstrual cycle, and probably, you know, there is something in, there's definitely something in there, but it's not the only thing, right? Because then men wouldn't have ACL injuries if that was the only causative factor. Women have wider hips, slimmer ACL structures, but we're also smaller. So a lot of the blame in the media, especially, is around, you know, women being fragile and shouldn't do sport. And I think that's a complete wrong message to send out there. I think we should start with all the things we can actually change. And, you know, controlling the hormonal cycle, understanding it better is one place, but also factors that we've talked about around, you know, pitches, even in the Super League, are not the same quality.
No, not all of them, no.
Yeah. And then when you play amateur, you know, often the women are pushed to the pitch at the furthest back, which is the one with the big holes in, and the boys play on the front pitch, access to gyms, etc. So there are all these factors that we can do something about, which is more the nurture, so the environment we're in, rather than the actual female itself. So there's so much we can do still.
Yeah, easy answer people say right now is, oh, it's the menstrual cycle, it's the female sex hormones. But if that were the cause, why do we see ACL injuries in women in every phase of the menstrual cycle when all of these hormones are in very different levels? So I think the menstrual cycle is an easy answer, but I don't think it's the correct answer. It could have some factoring in, but it's not a major cause based upon the current evidence. I think societal aspects, as you were talking about, are really far more critical. And I think the issue of strength and conditioning in women, in girls as they're moving through the ranks in sport, I think that is something that is a far more important factor.
We're talking about the best and Vivs of this world because they're in the spotlight. Well, I'm seeing academy players that are doing their ACLs.
Young girls.
And I'm speaking to other clubs where they've had 4 or 5 academy players in one season do their ACLs.
Yeah, but no one hear about them ones.
But you don't really hear about them. So I actually think we're only talking about the tip of the iceberg.
Women's football is really important to England. And I think the more we can continue that message, the more we can have role models like you, the more we can have these discussions in public forums, it's only going to benefit.
I think throughout my career I've struggled with pressure massively.
I spoke to my mum a lot. I've always kept in touch with her every day, so it was just for me another phone call, and when you pick up it felt a bit different.